Chapter 8, People of Darkness. I did not know why I came there. The woman was late for an hour to spend about half an hour more telling me how cool she was and what cool people she had to work with. A too sweet doll-like smile froze on her masked face. She repeatedly called me by another name. At first I corrected her, but soon stopped. It was useless, since the woman listened only to herself. Having finally spoken to her heart's content, she said, "You must come to cast your spells to the Passage Court on the 5th of September. Dad's birthday." I breathed out. "Great Marina, invite Dad," exclaimed the woman. "I have everyone dead for a long time," I said calmly, but the woman did not hear and continued to talk nonsense about her cool friends who had come to the Passage Court on the day of someone's birthday. "So Marina, invite your dad." "Of course, and Dad, and Mom, and others too," I nodded, realizing that dialogue was inappropriate. The girl at the next table cringed and tried to convey my previous words to the woman. However, she was not at all embarrassed and with the same doll-like smile, looking at me as if at a child from the youngest group of a kindergarten, in an insinuating voice, as if sharing a terrible military secret, said, "Marina, there is a belief that the souls of the dead do not die, but remain close to us." "Unbelievable, really?" I asked, supporting her sudden image of Christopher Columbus. The woman almost jumped at the discovery announced to me. "So invite Dad, and one more thing. You must come shocking." "What do you mean?" I asked. "Well," the woman looked displeased at my dress and hair. "You must come, how to say, to shock the audience." "Do you want me to come naked?" The woman did not understand that I was joking, got scared and cried out, "No, in no case, but you should do something at least with your hair." "I have horns at home. They can crown my hair," I said absolutely seriously, and the woman barely restrained herself from losing the smile. "You will cast spells for about half an hour and exclusively by heart." "I don't know my spells by heart." "Take it as your home task, you must cast by heart," exclaimed the woman, simultaneously opening my white book of spells at random, and as a speaker on the podium added, "You will be casting like that." Very loudly, with a pretentious look and the same smile never leaving her face, throwing her right hand in the direction of someone's bright future, the woman began to cast my spell dedicated to the memory of my deceased mother, which was very sad and not at all intended to be cast from the podium before the public. "Stop, enough, I got it." The woman closed the book. I asked, "Have you ever read my spells?" I decided to clarify, although the answer was obvious even to non-clairvoyants. "No, Marina, I can't stand spells, I read detective stories." "I understand you," I nodded, mirroring the woman's smile in response. "Anyhow, sign your book for me, Marina. By the way, how do you write spells?" the woman asked, holding out her pen. I thought, if I don't sign it now, will she finally part with her fake smile? "They come, I write them down." "So maybe they're not your spells." "Maybe not mine, perhaps yours." "Do you really think I could write a spell?" "Certainly, take any rhyme and put it at the end of the line. For example, love dove." "So simple, I will try it today." The woman rejoiced. Saying goodbye, she once again scanned me from head to toe with a disdain look, clearly unsatisfied with my appearance, and demanded that I come at least in a witch hat. "Why? All spellcasters correspond to the image that includes at least one element as a must, and this is a hat. You must also prepare a list of questions that I will ask you in public, Marina." "You may ask me any questions," I said, thinking that I would gladly make a list of questions long enough for all the spellcasters in the world, but for a part of the woman's salary. "No, Marina, you must think of the questions yourself." Meanwhile, there are crowds of the unemployed outside. I sighed at the elevator and went to meet Olga, a spellcaster who had decided to publish her first book and wanted to consult with me. Besides, agree that, it's always nice to talk with a kindred soul. We met in a cafe in the city center, talked for a long time about spells and were just about to say goodbye, when Olga asked, "How are you doing?" "Well, in life in general. Hard times, you know, everything has been collapsing since January. What else expect from the age of Christ? We all go through a kind of breaking. We must give to the world what we know." "Who are you?" I asked, already anticipating the answer. "Can you look through?" "Yes, I can, but I don't do black magic and advise you the same," Olga said, simultaneously peering into my palm. "Oh, your extrasensory line is so clearly expressed that I may say nothing to you. And who are you according to the stars?" "Mars in Cancer, Venus in Pisces, Lilith on the Sun, Selena and Sirius on the Ascendant, the master of the 8th sphere in the 1st sphere, the master of the 1st in the 12th, evil Pluto in the 5th in opposition to the Sun." "Wow, lucky." "Yes, all the same in every sphere. Spells, magic, magic, spells, love, death, death, love. Anyhow, I don't know who I am, if count the name. My full name means the sun, and the short one means the moon. You must urgently sort out the knowledge you have acquired in your life and systematize it. Your head is overloaded with information in a chaotic form. At the age of 33, a new solar cycle begins. If you don't start doing for the world what you came into it for, you will be punished. I went through this myself. I did not have a childhood either. They say you paint. Will you show me your paintings? Then we talked about earthly things. I told Olga about the creepy woman, and we laughed, and I was happy that, fortunately, other women still existed on the earth. For 4 months I had been asking the man who was not to meet me. I wanted to tell him about my spells, job, the creepy woman. He promised to materialize himself on Wednesday or Thursday, but on Monday I knew that the meeting would not take place. He disappeared. On Thursday night I wrote to him, "Are you alive?" and got the answer, "Yes, why?" So for 3 days I had been lying on the bed looking at the ceiling, when suddenly a word appeared on the phone screen, "Come." It was Ray, a mystical creature, I would even say, a real black magician, with whom we had known each other for about 100 years, but recently communicated exclusively mentally. Mistaken the number? No, you just need it now. So where, when? Tomorrow afternoon. Ray always felt me, knew what was happening to me at a great distance, suddenly appeared on the horizon, and then just as suddenly disappeared. Memories of Ray took me back to the distant past. Returning to the present, I met the sun in the window and went to the cottage. The next day, waking up in the old attic, I felt that the depression had gone. The weather corresponded to the real summer, and I wanted to swim in the lake. I sent Ray a question mark and immediately received an answer, "Don't come, you don't need it anymore." I got out of bed, stamped my foot and laughed. I looked around, as if seeing the attic for the first time, and suddenly realized that its strange decoration was nothing more than a mirror of my subconscious. The bright Tunisian blue-colored walls with Indian paintings with Arabic script, Moroccan lanterns and candles, Oriental lounge with black bedspreads and a lot of lilac orange burgundy pillows on the floor, a hooker and cards, a pile of carpets underfoot, a red-yellow-black plaid on the bed under a white ceiling with black wood beams, as all sorts of other things reminded me of Ray and brother. In those years when they were nearby, I felt truly happy. Parting with them was one of the biggest wounds not yet healed. They both saved my life that terrible autumn. How could I choose between them? And then I took a step into another reality, where none of them existed anymore. Brother, that's what I call him, we're not relatives, 10 years older than me, is an oligarch, who, despite the enormous money and power, managed to remain a child at heart, a mischievous and eccentric boy I love very much. We are incredibly similar in character and appearance. Although he is very tall and very, very handsome, next to him I seemed a fairy dancing on his palms. Full of doubts and hopes, brother played business, always moving forward, no matter the cost. Possessing excellent intuition in business, he understood nothing in people. I wanted to protect him, but he used to get angry when I tried to explain what I saw. We often quarreled at full, but quickly made up. He read no books, but my spells. Once I said, "Someday you will be proud of me," and when I was officially recognized as a spellcaster, despite the fact that we almost did not communicate anymore, brother called me and somehow embarrassed said, "Alice, I am proud of you." I caused him pain he could not forgive. Of course, I can call him at any time, just like then, and he will definitely help. But we both know the door to that reality of ours is forever closed and will never be opened by any magic key. I met the man who was not 2 weeks plus those 4 months later. I wanted to wander with him around the city, but we had dinner. He was hungry, I could not eat at all, a common reaction to food when I was nervous. I was afraid of him. He could hurt me and kill me with a word, deed, or even just with silence, he and not someone else, because no one had any power over me, except for those whom I loved. I wanted to sit not opposite, but next to him, pressing my cheek to his shoulder in silence, but he was interested exclusively in earthly food. Therefore, in order to avoid useless pauses, I told him everything that came first to mind, about my job, brother, that terrible autumn, the attic in the cottage, acquaintance with the creepy woman, which aroused no interest in him. The man who was not was worried about one thing only, whether I had written in the blue book, which should be published by the date of the spell casting at the Passage Court, that it was all dedicated to him. I asked if he had received my paintings by email. "I rarely check my mail," he said. "How can I communicate with you? We are already in communication. I can't see you, am I not with you now?" I write, but you don't read my letters. I have already said that I rarely check mail, and I don't like writing letters. I can't call you, and you don't call me. I don't talk to anyone on the phone. We were so similar. I liked neither talking on the phone nor writing letters. I almost never called anyone myself, and my home telephone was in mute mode for many years. Having returned home, I wrote that I would like him to remain in my life as a person with whom I would have the opportunity to simply communicate. As always, he did not answer. The world continued collapsing. Nonna said that she did not see me at the place where I had recently got a job, and that the higher forces wanted me to start giving people what I know. I completed the project in 3 weeks instead of 8, realizing that the owner still did not and would not have money for its implementation, and on the day the project was started up, the company was closed for an inventory with confiscation of property for non-payment of debts. I invited the owner to pay me out and let me go. The owner invited me to wait for the evening and get drunk with him in a haunted place with the last money he had, clearly not enough to cover even a negligible part of the promise to me for the project. The owner was all dark. People are dark in different ways. In a dream called life, black magicians were sent to me repeatedly. They immediately recognized me, as I recognized them. During my student years, our teacher, a black magician, taught me not only a foreign language, but also the identification of the dead by photos. I was grateful to him for making me watch a film I would hardly have watched myself, since even then I had almost never turned on the television. Few people like the film. Basically everyone criticizes it for its immorality. Few people realize that one may not watch the screen at all if one sees what is left behind the scenes. But when asked why the girl kills the man, they both are the main characters, everyone answers differently. Black magicians offered me to play with them on the black field, but I did not agree. Thus, the wars used to begin. Because the black magicians, as well as the white ones, know that two magicians, black and white, cannot exist on the same territory at the same time, someone must leave. To be honest, I don't like wars. Therefore, if I don't have to communicate with black magicians due to forced circumstances beyond my control, for example, at work, I prefer not to communicate with such entities at all. Black magicians are not vampires. They are strong, clever and know to play well. They play so that ordinary people don't even suspect who is nearby. The only advantage of black magicians over white ones is that the latter will never allow themselves to use the methods of evil to defeat evil. Evil will be punished in any case, and black magicians are well aware of it. Once it seemed to me that I could turn a black magician into a white one. However, this is an illusion, because black magicians themselves and quite consciously chose their path. It's impossible to change the magician unless the magician himself wants it. If he wants to, he will do it without anyone's help. There is another category of dark entities. My grandmother the witch was not a black magician, but a clairvoyant vampire. She seemed to be an absolutely harmless old lady, but she had negative energy, so people tried to avoid her. Grandma knew everything about those near and far, about what was happening anywhere in the world, but she constantly needed outside energy to go on living. When I was 11 years old, the grandma was about to die, and I found myself in the intensive care unit in hospital. My mother wished in her heart to change places with me, so I was back. Mom died, the grandma survived. Exactly a year later, my mother's sister moved to another reality too. Everyone around was dying, the grandma continued to live. She was unbaptized and never went to church even to listen to me singing there. She did not attend her daughter's funerals and never went to the cemetery. When she fell down breaking her hip and was chained to bed, doctors gave her a maximum of 6 months to live, but she lived for 5 years. Feeling the approach of her death, the grandma asked me to bring her a cross, but immediately returned it back, saying that it was strangling her. The priest refused her communion and absolution, and 10 days before death, she admitted to see the lower astral, where the sorcerers were intensively dragging her to. Relatives were so afraid of her posthumous power that cremated her body. Anyhow, I had to thank my grandma, since she taught me a lot, for example, to see without intermediaries. As a child, I asked her to tell fortunes on cards and say what each of them meant. The grandma chuckled, assuring that she did not know the meanings, but just knew. I understood her words many years later. All magical attributes are theatrical scenery. They help people open the door to another reality. The highest level of obtaining information is when you know without intermediaries, and no cards are needed anymore. There are simply dirty people. These are precisely people whose light has gone out. I had to communicate with such man on business. Every minute of his life, every body movement, every yes and no, as indeed everything in the world, had a certain value for him, expressed in pieces of paper. Someone once invented those papers, painted them in different colors, put numbers on them, and since then they have been called the magic word money. Magic, yes. Because in this world money has a black magical power with a hypnotic effect on practically everyone. After communicating with dirty people, I always want to wash my aura. However, there is one more category of darkness as a disease of the soul that can affect the most ordinary people of light and even white magicians when the higher forces put them in a difficult situation. Such disease does not manifest itself on the physical level immediately. It's necessary to dig out the cause in time so that, on the one hand, the body does not get sick, and on the other, and more importantly, so that the light does not go out. We were sitting in a cafe. The owner was all dark. He talked for a long time about his factories and the people who worked with him, about what could have been done and what could not. It was a pity. I could not help him, since I had so little energy left that I did not even go out into the flow. Alice, you are so cool, the owner said sadly. If you had been with me from the very beginning, we would have already. Sorry, I played too much. I owe everyone a lot of money and I don't know the way to get out of that darkness. I wanted to take out a loan, but the banks refused. A jail or a shot or a jail. We said goodbye. He called me several times just like that, and then disappeared. So I was left without money, without job, but with a bunch of problems that snowballed at me from all sides. All I had was the man who was not. I tried to think what I could do on my own, giving out my knowledge to the world. I wanted to talk to him. He promised to call back when he was free and called me late at night. I managed to say only a couple of phrases before he said he could not speak anymore, so he would call me back the next day. However, tomorrow has a habit of never coming. I wrote to him several times, but his monosyllabic answers indicated that he did not read my letters at all.